Welcome back to your coaching authorization course. Appreciate all the hard work that you've put in to this point. And so we're moving into module 3 here, where we're really going to focus on our responses to medical emergencies that take place during athletic events, and how to prevent them as well as coaches. And so this time, you see, I cleaned up the face a little bit. The facial hair was getting a little bit long, and so I look less caveman-y today. But as we dive into these chapters and these foundations of first aid, I ask you to really focus and try to study and find a way to ingrain these action plans and steps to first aid into your mind. You never know when an event is going to occur that requires your immediate attention. 2 years ago in the fall, we were playing a junior college at the institution I was at during that time, and post game, we're cleaning up the field. The junior college was over doing some extracurricular activities because their coach was not happy with their performance, and then he was talking to their guys after they got done, and they had an athlete that started to have seizures. At that point, our training staff had already taken our athletes who needed care back into our training room, which was located about a block away. So it was kind of a frantic moment of trying to figure out what exactly was going on, and with the seizures, he was also having some vomiting, and at the time I hadn't encountered this, and luckily we were able, between our coaching staff and the opposing team's coaching staff, we knew it was important for us to get that athlete on his side and kind of have some action steps there. One of the coaches at the junior college was familiar with that, having been the EMT before, and it really sparked thought in me on how well am I prepared to handle these. Now, I'm lucky I have training staff at all of our games and in-season practices and events, and so we get somebody there all the time who's a trained professional in that area. But as a high school coach, you aren't always fortunate enough to have that there, so you have to know exactly how to respond. And so I think that the foundation for that response, it goes back to the topic 2 of module 2, where we talk about our assessment and we talk about knowing your athletes, and part of that goes also into your risk management, and hopefully you're seeing how these things build on each other, because in that risk management plan, hopefully you put something about knowing illnesses or likelihoods of things, or if they're on any certain medication, so that you're aware of your athlete's health and maybe some issues that they fight on a regular basis. So hopefully those things are there. In this topic, we'll cover chapters 4, and then we'll review chapter 5, which I incorporate a little bit there in topic 2 of module 2, and then chapter 6. On page 50, 51, and 52, I think there's some great emergency action steps that you need to be aware of, and it starts with assessing the scene. Know where you're at, know what's around you, know what you have going on, know where if you have AEDs, know where those are at prior to gameplay or practice. Know who your game day manager is. My assumption is that you have somebody there, administration or somebody that is in charge of game day management, who's responsible for calling an ambulance in a worst case scenario. And so assess the scene, find those people, and then assess the athlete. Make sure whether they're conscious, unconscious, if they have loss of vision, those kind of things. Assess those athletes and Again, this is where it's important to know if your athlete has asthma or seizures or any other kind of disorders that maybe you can tackle with something that you have there. And then attend to the breathing, make sure your athlete is breathing properly and is controlled breathing. And so those are some big ones that the book really touches on there. And then, if there's trouble breathing, obviously make sure that the airway passage, that there's not a blockage there that's causing that. And then as you gather that information, it'll help you make a decision on what your next step needs to be and where you need to go from there. And as this is part of where some of the CPR certifications that you're required to have by the state of Iowa come into play, and that's why it's important when you go through that course and you have to have it to attain the authorization that you aren't just getting through it to get through it. Those courses are built to save lives, and it's important that if we're going to be certified in those, that we have a full understanding exactly of what we need to do. So God forbid something happens, we are able to respond appropriately. And this is part of our responsibility for the position that God has put us in. We're in position of authority, and as people in authority, we need to be responsible for those people that we are leading and that we are serving on a daily basis. And part of that in coaching is knowing how to respond in these situations and preparing yourself to respond in an effective way. As we get into chapter 6, you'll start to see a little bit more. Hang on as I flip over there. I've got some notes in chapter 6. You'll start to see kind of what you need to do next, how we need to assist these individuals in moving them. Do we need to call a stretcher? Do we need to get an ambulance in? Can I move the athlete myself? Is the athlete capable of moving themselves? A lot of times, athletes will think that they're capable, and we have to guard them against themselves in order to limit the risk of further injury. And so, it's important that we understand how we do this properly, how we do this effectively to provide the safest environment for our athletes. And so that's kind of a rundown of what you're going to look at here, and an example from my time in this. And it's this unfortunately in the world we work in and the world we coach in, injuries are going to happen, and it's our job to be prepared for those injuries. So hopefully that you take these things to heart as you read through these chapters and work through the assessments, and don't just get through it to get through it, but get through it with a purpose of bettering yourself for your athletes. As always, if you need anything, let me know. Hope you have a good one.